The term underrated when referred to film can mean one of two things. One, a film that you personally like that everyone else didn't, or two, a film that you like or even love that not many people know about or don't talk about anymore. And that's what we'll be talking about on this new show, Norty's Forgotten Flicks, where I'll be discussing films that I feel don't get enough attention, or at the very least aren't given as much credit as I think they deserve. Some of these might have actually been a box office success and gotten decent reviews, but I think they deserve more. And I'll still pick out the flaws of them, just to show that while I like the films, I can still see that they're not perfect. And for the first review, we will be looking at what I consider the most underrated movie of all time. Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Directed by Brad Sberling, who also directed the live-action Casper movie, this film was of course based on the book series A Series of Unfortunate Events, which had 11 of its 13 books written by the point this film was released. It was originally supposed to be written by the author of the books, but got changed to Robert Gordon, who did Galaxy Quest. The books are good and all, some were definitely better than others, but most of them had a good mystery and a pretty dark sense of humor, and I consider this one of the best book-to-film adaptations of all time. And to be fair, it did get relatively decent reviews from critics and fans. Sure, there were some nitpickers, but they were pretty fair. And it did make over $200 million, but compared to other starter franchises based on books, yeah, it had no chance of a sequel, especially since it cost $140 million to make. But forget the movie's failures. Let's just see why it works. So the movie starts. Actually, this is a reference to the books, just added in for the fans. But even if you haven't read them, it still works since Lemony Snicket, played by Jude Law, interrupts and warns us that the film we are about to see will not be happy and magical, but dark and menacing. He tells us of the Baudelaire children. There's Violet, the MacGyver of the group, who can build anything as long as she has her hair tied up. Klaus, the reader who remembers everything he has ever read, and I've heard people complain that he doesn't wear his glasses throughout most of the movie. To that I say, Hermione was supposed to have buck teeth until halfway through Goblet of Fire. I don't hear anyone complaining about that. The last Baudelaire is Sunny. She likes to bite things. Anyway, let's get on with the story.
Children, I'm afraid I must inform you of an extremely unfortunate event. I'm very, very sorry to tell you this, but your parents have perished in a fire that's destroyed your entire home.
Jeez, dude, could you sound a little more depressed? Although when you're played by the assistant to Lord Voldemort, I guess telling children their parents are dead and their homes is gone just doesn't faze you.
No one knows the precise cause of the Baudelaire fire.
So, in the first 5 minutes, our main characters have lost their parents, their home, and almost all of their possessions. Jeez, this movie actually has some balls. And if you're complaining that we never see their parents, we never see them in the books either. We mostly get flashbacks and dialogue in both the books and film to explain what their parents were like. Oh, and Klaus finds a spyglass in his father's desk. This will become important later. So Mr. Poe, the banker in charge of their fortune, takes them to meet their new guardian. But first we meet Justice Strauss.
You must be the Baudelaires.
Hi.
I was so sorry to hear about the accident, but so happy to hear you were coming here. Welcome, I'm Justice Strauss of the City High Court.
I had adopted you myself, but there were a couple of instances with my son. Child Services came and took all my children away. I'm no longer allowed to care for children. Their new guardian lives across the street. His name is Count Olaf, played by Jim Carrey, and what I have to say is one of the best performances of his career. He plays Olaf so menacing, so hilariously, and so asshole-like it's hard not to enjoy him.
I will raise these orphans as if they were actually wanted.
And that's pretty much how he was in the books, so I'm not complaining.
Shall we take a look?
He gives them a tour of his house, including his theater. Yes, this guy's an actor, can't you tell? And we pretty much learn that this place isn't fit for rats, let alone humans, and then forces them upstairs. You know, I'm getting the feeling this guy might be a dick. So we get a montage of basically what covers a few chapters of the first book, nothing too major. And later that night, Olaf brings his theater troupe to his home and asks the orphans to make dinner.
Sonny, how's that pot coming?
Sonny, that's not a pot. It's a spittoon.
A spittoon? You mean like... We'll wash it twice.
Why? This guy's an asshole. Just use the thing as it is. So they make it pasta dinner, but Olaf tells them they want roast beef and reacts in the way you'd expect. Threatens Sonny, slapped Klaus across the face, and locked them in their room without supper. I never said this guy couldn't have his serious moments. The three decide to build a sanctuary and, wait, siblings actually getting along and not fighting every 5 seconds? This movie is very unrealistic. Olaf finally gets full custody of the children with his awesome hat and decides to stop for a treat. Interesting to note here, that last Champ's General Store was in the 8th book. Just another little nod to the fans. But they notice that Olaf parked them right on the train tracks and has locked them inside as a train is heading their way. Violet comes up with an invention using some rope, a spring, and the head of that satanic oaf.
Violet, I got it. I don't mean to rush you.
Mr. Poe arrives and sees that Sonny was in the driver's seat, so even though he takes the children away, he doesn't believe he tried to kill them.
Goodbye, kids. It's been fun. I'm going to get you no matter where you go, no matter what you do. I'll find you. You are so deceased.
I don't know if I should laugh or scream. Mr. Poe takes them to the home of their new guardian, Uncle Monty, played by Billy Connolly, who after getting rid of Mr. Poe, takes them to his room full of unusual reptiles. Look out! It's the CGI Snake of Doom!
The incredibly deadly viper couldn't have possibly harmed her?
No. The big softy.
One of the least harmful and most friendly creatures in the animal kingdom. It's a misnomer. I only called him that to play a prank on those stuffed shirts down at the Herpetological Society.
So we learn that Uncle Monty is actually pretty cool. He's nice, he can sing, he has the same spyglass as their dad, and he's planning on taking the kids to Peru the next morning. How many other people would take kids they just got custody of to Peru? Yes, it seems everything is going fine until...
I am Stefano. I am an Italian man, and I am here to assist him in his research as best I can.
So Olaf is pretending to fill in for Monty's assistant, who unfortunately couldn't come. Klaus tells Violet about the spyglass, but they aren't sure what to make of it. Monty reveals that he knows Stefano is an imposter, but thinks he is here to steal the incredibly deadly viper. Later that night, Monty is approached by a mysterious shadow, and the next morning... Holy shit! This movie got released during the holidays? The police come by to inspect, and the children try to convince them that it couldn't possibly have been the incredibly deadly viper that killed Monty, since he is so harmless. Which of course sounds completely retarded, and Stefano agrees to take them to Peru with him. At first all seems lost, but then Sonny manages to save the day by showing how friendly the viper really is. I think we know why this movie chose to have so many practical effects.